This is Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. I encourage you to stay tuned for today's program. Dave Odell is with me. He's the athletic director at Westmont College. He's also an entrepreneur, a businessman, and he's just got a lot of great stories and thoughts to share. I think you're going to really enjoy it. Dave Odell is on The Good Life, coming up next. Welcome to Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. So glad you've joined us today. I have a special guest today. Dave Odell is with me. Dave is a friend. He's a business executive, entrepreneur, also an athletic director here in Santa Barbara, California at Westmont College. So he's an interesting, amazing guy. Dave, welcome.
Thank you.
So first of all, I'll say, so Dave's dad, Bill, was the head basketball coach at Azusa Pacific University for 16 years, coached for 39 years total. In his 16 years at Azusa Pacific, I think his winning percentage was 804 or something really high. So I want to start by apologizing because I heckled Bill a fair amount as a Westmont student. I mean, like a lot. So if Bill, if you're watching, I'm sorry. And on behalf of all Westmont students, the sit down Bill chant. So I just want to clear the air. I've been having that on my shoulders for a long time.
Yeah, as the Westmont athletic director, I appreciate that.
That wasn't the worst of our chants, actually. Like back in the day, like some of our chants were a little.
Yeah, couldn't get away with that.
Couldn't do that now.
No, we would have had to kick you out.
Right. I probably would have got tossed a few times. So Bill Odell's an amazing guy himself, and I actually wanted to start with that. Tell me about your father-son relationship with your dad. Yeah.
Well, first off, just unconditional love.
Yeah.
That was the foundation for our relationship, and that I never doubted that for a moment. And he's an amazing human in that he is very, very consistent. He didn't have a ton of words, but when he spoke them, they were impactful. And then the greatest blessing really in my life is that I got to stand and sit by his side from the time I was 5 years old to the time I left for Westmont. I sat at the end of every bench for almost every game since I was 5 years old. I got to be essentially teammates with different set of guys every year in Long Beach, and learned a ton from that experience about life and about growing up in a very, very diverse area of Long Beach, and different lifestyles and different ways people lived, and got to be there, got to ride the bus with the team.
Wow.
Got to sit in at the halftime talks for really 13 years.
Wow.
And so that has been so formative, was so formative for me.
I bet. Yeah. Was he at Milliken?
Long Beach Milliken, yes.
So he was there for like 20 years?
Yes.
Okay, so when you were, and then after you left for Westmont, then he ended up going to Azusa?
Right. I think I was at Westmont. He was never at Westmont while I was at never at Azusa while I was at Westmont.
Okay.
I think 91 was his first year at Azusa. I graduated Westmont in 89.
Okay.
So I can remember I played my very last game at Westmont. We lost in the district tournament and got a ride from an old friend, Garrett O'Hara, from our Westmont game, to the LA Sports Arena to watch my dad win the CIF championship.
Is that right?
Yeah. So
wow.
That was a special.
Did he have a preference? What did he like? I mean, I'm sure it's a hard question to answer, but was the high school coaching experience for him versus the college coaching experience? Did he have a preference in terms of the 20 years in high school or at Milken versus the 16 years at Azusa?
I think it was, he and my mom treated that as their ministry, and really serving youth. And so obviously Milliken, being a public school, was very different in that what you could do, and then you go to Azusa at this Christian school, and it was very you could be very upfront about things and talk about things that way.
So it's very different.
Very different.
Yeah.
And I would say he has great relationships with athletes that he coached at both places. In fact, he just went to, last year, had a big gathering of a group of guys from the 70s at Milliken, and they met at a Laker game in a box, and it was just one of those things that when you're a retired coach, it was such a blessing for him.
Doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah. So, but the Zusa relationships, because you get 4 years with them,
right,
and you recruited them and all that, those relationships are more sort of, lifelong and more day-to-day like relationships that he still has.
That makes sense.
So.
And we were talking before we came on about Jeff Rudder, one of your dad's old assistants, who I know he's dear friends with. It was one of my high school teammates and good friends. So he was the athletic director at Azusa Pacific as well as the head coach. And
for a time, yes.
For a time.
Yeah.
And then you became the athletic director at Westmont.
Correct.
And as I was reading for this interview, I was kind of looking at his story and yours. His track record as a AD in terms of the whatever the award is for the
GSAC All Sports.
All Sports, and then yours, which is no slouch. I think eight years in a row or something is what I read that you've won that award as AD.
Yes.
And I can't believe it's already been 11 years since you've been AD.
Yeah,
that's gone by quick.
Very quick.
Yeah. But so tell me about your dad, coach, AD. You were a player.
Yeah.
You're a businessman, and we'll get to that in a minute. But tell me about what it's been like to be the athletic director at Westmont College, and also what is your vision for the student athlete?
Right.
There.
Right. That's a great question. So first, interesting quick story. So the reason I decided to do the AD thing is because I thought it was going to be a cool way to hang out with my dad, because he was still the AD at Azusa.
Oh, okay.
And so the first 3 years, or 2 or 3 years I was AD, he was still AD at APU.
Okay.
In fact, that award, the All Sports Award, has been in our family for something like 20 years because he had it, and the first year he was gone, we won it. And so
that's
anyway,
amazing.
So we laugh about that.
That's
so someday
fantastic.
Somebody will get it from us.
Is there a trophy?
Yeah, it's a really
Odells
cool trophy.
just own that trophy.
Yeah,
it
goes to each school, and it's funny because it has Azusa, and then it says Westmont.
Wow,
it's pretty cool.
That is awesome.
So anyway, so we had a blast being in these business meetings, for the conference together, and he taught me so much just to do that job. And so I was always able to bounce. And then when he retired, it was even better because I could bounce a lot of things off of him.
Oh, right.
Yeah, our vision for athletes at Westmont is that they have a life-changing experience through athletics, and we believe that all the pillars of Westmont, that this liberal arts education, where you've got to do all that, and there's no free ride for athletes at Westmont as it relates to academics, and you got to play a sport at a really high level and practice, and that time commitment, and you got to spend time to nurture your faith and all the things that Westmont brings in that regard. And so we see sort of the final product after 4 years as this super well-rounded person that's had some challenges, had some adversity, had to dig in and do a lot of things well, and we think that experience really has an impact on them, and you know that as much as anybody.
Yeah, well, it's a great experience for me. I was not a good baseball player, and it took up a lot of time, so I retired. but the Westmont experience is phenomenal. For people that don't know or are watching this somewhere else, Westmont College is a private Christian college in the hills of Santa Barbara, California, 1,200 or so students with an outstanding everything, in my opinion. And I'm not just saying that because Gail Beebe's going to be here in a couple weeks.
Oh, okay.
I mean it. It's an outstanding, and our family's been blessed by Westmont a lot. But you've won a lot. It's interesting in that answer, winning didn't come up, and I know you want to win, but the other stuff is more important. And so how have you managed to win so much?
Yeah. So we think that winning is a great metric for how we're doing. If we're doing things well, we're going to win games. one of the first things I did being a business guy is I created this giant spreadsheet, and I wanted to see what our win-losses were as an entire program, all sports. And when I became AD, we'd won 41% of our contests the previous year. We started instituting some changes, a wide range of changes. And
like what?
Well, we did a number of things. Initially there were some coaching changes right away. Right. We instituted a captain's retreat that where we sort of poured into the captains and helped them, do that job well.
Right. Great idea.
So that was important. We started a tradition of an all-athlete meeting where we pulled all the athletes together. Every year we pick a verse of the year and a theme for the year around that we want the whole program to adopt as all 250 athletes, not just team by team.
Yeah. Wow.
And we really talked a lot about each team supporting other teams. So we came up like with brother-sister teams. We did some things like that, and we got each team cheering for each other and feeling like part of something bigger than just their 12 guys on a basketball floor or 30 guys on a baseball field.
Right.
That they actually could have an impact on how the school did in total. And so I told my coaches, I said, I don't care where the wins come from. They can come from women's soccer, men's basketball. I just want wins. And so if your program is going to get wins, that's showing me that the metric is right. And if you're doing it in the right way, of course.
Right.
So that first year we won 41%. The first year we won, like we're right at where we were before. It was a rough first year. And then it just started creeping up. And so now it's interesting because we're always flirting around 75%.
Really?
Yeah. And the last probably 3-4 years we've been in the 75% range across all sports. Obviously you can't take into account track cross country because they don't do head-to-head stuff. But
you're pretty good in track country.
Yeah, but those are good too. So
yeah, Russell Smelly.
Yeah. So
wow.
So anyway, so that kind of focus on the full program versus these little siloed things.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I think.
So you kind of viewed it as one collective program.
Yeah.
Not individual teams.
Correct.
That's really smart.
I think our coaches also appreciated that, and there's a great camaraderie within the staff.
Is there?
And they support each other. And now that we have some older coaches and some younger coaches, that relationship, those are really cool relationships that are developing. And
that's really good.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like informal mentoring that are going on right now in the program. So it's great.
And Dave Wolf still there?
Dave Wolf is still there and won a conference championship last year. And,
And how many, is he 32 years or something?
I think it's in that range. He and Smelly, I've lost count.
Smelly's he might be in triple digits. I don't even know where Smelly's. And you mentioned the name Russell Smelly to people. It's amazing. Yeah. What people just, the respect he's earned over time and the impact he's had, and Dave Wolf and John Moore and of course Coach Ruiz has just taken the baseball program now and lit it on fire. Yeah,
that I tell a lot of people that Rob Ruiz, who was my first hire, made me look.
Was he
like,
really?
Yeah. He made me look like a genius because that
you got
program.
Him from Azusa, right?
Well, so that's the thing is all I did to get him was I picked up the phone and said, "Dad, I need a baseball coach," and he said, "I got a baseball coach for you."
That right?
Because he was the associate head coach at Azusa.
Oh, he wasn't the head coach. He was the associate head coach.
Yeah, under Paul Svagdis, who's still there.
Oh, okay. But your dad knew about him.
Well, yeah, because he worked under my dad. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So my dad said, "Yeah, Robert's ready for a head coaching job." And we had a full search, but he nailed it.
Yeah,
and
he was the one.
Yeah, he's the one, and he's really progressed. He's helping me with athletic administration. I really lean on him. in the AD stuff. He handles a number of things that, given my roles, I can't get to,
right.
But he does it so well. And
that's
and
great.
Just,
so you started 1 for 1 in the head coaching
yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
That's great. I also lit the baseball program on fire, literally.
You did?
Can I tell you a quick story?
Okay.
So we did this, we decided to go down to the baseball field at night and douse baseballs in gasoline, put them on the tee, and then hit them.
Okay.
Seemed like the right thing to do at the time.
Yes.
Well,
why wouldn't it be?
Right. So I was a freshman, again, freshman on the team, not a good player, no power at all fields, how I would describe my hitting. So I am in charge of the gas can, and somehow I got like way too close, and the fire went this way.
Uh-oh.
So we had like a big problem. Security arrives. We go bolting in like 6 different directions. I just remember jumping some fence like in the right field, down the right field line. So I lit the baseball program on fire also.
Yeah.
Like Robert.
You did.
Just in a different way.
That's great.
Yeah.
Who was
that was the
coach?
highlight of my baseball career that night.
Was Kirkgard your coach?
Kirkgard was my coach. The great John Kirkgard, who I'm still good friends with to this day.
He's a great guy.
Legendary, wonderful man.
He's been so supportive of Robert. I
Has
think
he?
that's had a huge impact on our program too.
Oh,
it's just
great.
the support that we still get from John. He's
That's,
so loved. And so when I was playing basketball at Westmont, all my buddies were baseball players who played for Kirkgard.
Oh, really?
So I went to every baseball game. So I love John.
Yeah,
too.
John Kirkgard's a great guy.
Yeah.
Let's talk about John Moore.
Okay.
John Moore retired, and he's finished as the head coach, and my understanding is he's moving kind of into an associate athletic director, or he may stick around in some capacity. But reflect on his career, and I know you guys have been friends a long time, and reflect on that.
So I actually grew up. I had seen John play high school, and
really?
At Los Alamitos. Well, yeah, because Los Alamitos, where John played, is actually really close to Milliken, and so so I had an occasion to see he and his brother Mike play in their years at Los Alamitos.
Oh, nice.
So,
I didn't know that.
And then I watched John play at Westmont. Because we used to go to the local Westmont games, and then John coached at Fresno when I played for Chet Kammer at Westmont, and so a lot of years with John, and I think there's a couple things that there's so many things, but there's a couple things that really stand out to me about John is just one, his relationship with the community, and I don't mean just the Westmont community. For one, he's loved by the professors, and he's a coach that just really embraced that faculty coach model, and really, I think, helped the athletic department and helped me as an AD in terms of credibility with the faculty, because there's always a little bit of tension between athletics and the faculty, and John, I think, was instrumental in sort of bridging that. Russell's another guy who fits in that category, but so I would say that. And then some of the things that really I think Westmont stands where it does in this community in terms of the greater Santa Barbara community because of John's interaction with the community. And I don't know if you follow the Santa Barbara Athletic Roundtable. But John they always have John be the last guy to speak at that lunch during basketball season, and he goes every Monday, and he just represents the college so well in that environment, and like the people just eat it up, but he also does a great job of sharing what's special about Westmont to the greater Santa Barbara community. And if I had to pick one thing that I just think, will go beyond what he accomplished as a coach and what he accomplished with certain players and so forth, it would be that he really did sort of help Westmont. When you think about it, he outlived a lot of presidents at Westmont. And so his name and face in the community was the Westmont coach. And so what a great ambassador he was for all these years in that regard.
So true. So true. He was here a few weeks ago. We had a great time reflecting and talking about.
I loved that episode because I loved when you threw out names and he was coming up with each one. That was good.
And then the Jeff Azen, I mean, he almost brought me to tears. I mean, I'm just talking about A's. I mean, 26 years together.
Yeah.
And just that story. That's just such a powerful story of, on Azen's part of kind of just servant's heart.
Yeah.
And just the way that they, love each other.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Well, so that's all on the Westmont athletic director side. I want to talk about your career. I want to talk about, let's start with Medbridge.
Okay.
And when I was, here years and years ago, it was always Dave Odell was associated with the Tynan Group.
Mm-hmm.
That was the name in my head. And
yeah.
Now it's Medbridge. But tell us, I read a little bit about Medbridge, but for somebody who's watching, what does Medbridge do?
Right. So what we do is we partner with surgeons, physicians that specialize in surgery, and we develop and then partner with and develop and manage outpatient surgery centers. So imagine a doctor, needing to do your ACL reconstruction because you blew out your knee playing basketball. Most of my centers are orthopedic in nature. So my partners are mostly orthopedic surgeons. You've probably heard of Dr. Ryu locally,
Yep.
Is a well-known surgeon.
Yep.
So I did my first surgery center in Santa Barbara at called Summit Surgery Center, right across the street from the hospital. And we did it because the doctors wanted to specialize their surgical environment. And instead of going to the hospital where you've got all different kinds of specialties going on, and you might be doing a hernia repair at 8 o'clock, and at 9 o'clock an ACL, and at 10 o'clock some heart procedure.
Right.
They wanted to be able to specialize, and they wanted to be able to buy the highest tech equipment. They wanted their staff in the operating room, the tech, the circulating nurses, to be specialized in what they did. So it was, at the time, this was late 90s, there were only 400 surgery centers in America, and now there are 5,000.
Is that right?
And in fact, Medicare has really leaned on the surgery center industry to reduce the costs in the Medicare system.
Oh.
So in fact, over the last couple of years, we're now doing total joints in an outpatient setting for Medicare patients.
Wow.
And we've played an instrumental role during the pandemic because surgeries haven't been able to get done in the hospital because they've been saving beds.
Right.
So we've actually been taking on more cases at the surgery center.
Wow.
And so my company Medbridge, we put together the doctors who partner together. We develop the surgery centers, and then we hire the staff and we manage it. So we do all the business function, all the billing and the collections and all the Medicare certification, all the state and federal guidelines following. And then the surgeons just schedule their cases and they do their surgery. And from a business model standpoint, we get a facility fee just like the hospital would get a fee.
Yep.
And it's an opportunity for the doctors to make a little more money because they're partners in the entity. So the
doctors who work there are partners in the business.
Exactly.
That is the surgery center.
Exactly. So instead of just making their professional fee, they get a little cut of the profit of the surgery center.
Wow.
And so it's really interesting because as reimbursements have dropped, meaning doctors are getting paid less now than they ever have, they are really relying on these ancillary revenues like outpatient surgery. So anyways, the other cool thing about it is, Dr. Ryu is a great example. He used to say, I would get done with my operative day at 8 o'clock and be happy if I got home to see my kids because of the backups that happen in a hospital with triage cases that need to get put on. And once we opened the surgery center, he was done by 2 every day. And it allowed him to have a little more balance in his life, and all that. So
interesting.
So that's the business. We have 15 different surgery centers that we are partners in or provide services to across California.
But they're not called Medbridge.
They're all named separate entities.
Okay.
They all have different ownerships. We're the we're the sort of the operating group,
I see.
and we're owners in most of them. And so, yeah, it's an interesting business, and one that I've sort of stumbled into.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how did that happen?
Well, so I'm a CPA by trade,
Right.
so I had gone that route, and you know about switching careers.
Yeah, I do.
You know, I did love it, and John Tynan, my current partner, asked me to come help him with Tynan Group, which he had just started. And one of the things that we did was we bought a building by the hospital just as an investment, and it happened to be occupied by a number of orthopedic surgeons. And so I was their landlord, and they came and they said, "We'd love for you to build us a surgery center." And I said, "What's that?"
Right.
And they explained it to me. I said, "Okay, let's try it." And so I did one, and I thought, okay, we'll just go back to our knitting. And then about a year and a half later, I got a call from a very prominent Bay Area surgeon named Eugene Wolf, who actually was probably the first. He's sort of known for a particular knee and shoulder procedure. Asked me to develop his surgery center, and then it kind of just snowballed from there.
Wow, and you get 15 now.
Yeah.
And they're all in California?
They're all in California. We have one that we're working on out of state right now, but really focused on California, just because I never wanted to have to take 2 planes to get anywhere.
Right, yeah, right.
So we have a Bay Area presence, but pretty much everything is down here. We have
here.
3 in the
That
Bay.
is really interesting. I've been thinking a lot about culture, just in companies and anywhere.
Yeah.
What have you learned? You've been in business a long time. You've been an athletic director a long time now. What have you learned about culture in a workplace that is important to you?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that I think what employees expect from a culture, from a company, is very different today than it even was 5 years ago. So we're constantly sort of evolving as it relates to culture. I think that one thing that is for sure, and I think long-term wise, is I've tried to build culture around service. Everything that I've been involved with professionally has been about making the people that we serve better and able to focus on their trade, whether it be Dr. Marcus Elliott at P3, helping him be able to spend more time in the science of sports, helping Dr. Ryu be able to spend more time in surgery where he really is helping patients versus administrative things, whether it's keeping my coaches with their athletes and on the floor coaching them versus having to do other administrative tasks that, so I've sort of built the focus of my cultures around service. And but I think that the big thing that needs to happen in culture, whether it be an athletic program or a business, is creating meaning around what mission is, and what each person that shows up, how what they're doing helps others, changes the world, changes their community. It gives them something more than, am I just doing this for a paycheck? Or if I'm just doing this for another trophy? More around, like, what am I doing for humanity or the kingdom, or what have you? Right,
that's beautiful. And what you described before, have you read Good to Great?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you want Dr. Ryu spending the time, spend as much time as possible doing the things that only Dr. Ryu can do.
Yep.
Which is not paperwork.
Exactly.
Which it seems like, I mean, it seems obvious, but that's a very brilliant thought. I mean, in terms of getting people in the right seats, and then and they're going to thrive.
Right.
I mean, when they're going to be happiest.
Right.
And I know, and going back to what you said about service, I do know about the Medbridge project at the Boys and Girls Club, or I've heard about. Have you done service projects?
Yeah, as a company, we've done a number of service projects. A couple really neat things through Partners in Education, which I'm a member of the board of.
Oh, are you really?
and we've done some tutoring at the junior high as a staff. So we give them an hour every other week to go sit and tutor at the junior high.
Oh, that's so good.
We've transitioned from that to been doing some things at Harding Elementary School as a company, and so we do something around Martin Luther King Day every year as a company, just to focus on service and
that's so
try
great.
to impact things. So those shared kind of missional things mean a lot to the employees of today.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah.
And it also helps knit you together.
It does.
I mean,
It
I would
does.
think.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Your wife is Deanna?
Yes.
Walker, Rainey, and Rowley.
That's
is that
it.
right?
Yes.
And they're all out of the house? Are they?
They are.
Wow.
In various stages. My two daughters are in college. They're both soccer players. One's at Point Loma, one's at UC Santa Barbara.
Really?
And so with COVID, they're kind of been back and forth.
Okay.
And so it's actually been a blessing to go from empty nester to kind of not empty nester anymore. We were like empty nesters for about a 3-month
Just
period.
when you were getting used to it?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
But it's been that's been one of the blessings about this whole pandemic. One of the few is that we've got to spend more times that we wouldn't have thought we got to have.
Oh, that's great. Well, Dave, you got a great family. You're a great part of the community here, and in both of your roles. I'm not sure how you manage. Where do you office? Did you office at Westmont?
No. We bought a building right before the Funk Zone became the Funk Zone.
Oh, really?
The Funk Zone. So.
Really? So that's where you are.
Yeah. So we have a 3-story building, and we have my office with John Tynan, and Tynan Group is on the 3rd floor. The second floor is all Medbridge, and then the lab, our business, the lab, which is a sort of a partnership with P3 and Elite Physical Therapy, where we train adults who just really want to get back into doing physical stuff.
Okay.
And we use
that's on the bottom floor.
That's on the bottom floor.
The lab.
The lab.
Do you do any training for 14-year-old aspiring basketball players like my son?
Those go to P3.
Okay.
So we do that at P3.
Okay.
We call the lab P3 for civilians. So when Luca was at the P3, he used to come to the lab to recover.
Okay.
But then so many adults like you and me said, I want what Luca's got. And we said, well, you can't come here because this is where the pros come. But you can come to the lab. But our aspiring younger athletes go to P3.
Go to P3.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where young people would go.
Right.
I don't even know if Luca qualifies as a human being anymore.
Yeah. No,
I think he may have ascended to a different level. I don't know, that shot the other night.
Yeah,
the guy's playing on one ankle.
21-year-old.
Yeah. Crazy.
He started coming to P3 at 16.
Did he really?
So
I didn't know that.
yeah, he would come out there and
So that's a success story.
It's an Marcus and his team does a wonderful job with these guys, and we always get asked, like, why is he so good? And it's always the same answer as James Harden. It's that ability to decelerate. Luka, when he does that dribble step back, the force and speed at which he does it really sets him apart.
That's amazing.
So he's quite an athlete.
Yeah, skill set we don't have.
Right.
Dave, thanks for coming by. I'm sure we'll have you on again
Thanks, Dean.
sometime down the road.
This has been great.
Great talking with you.
Good.
And we'll see you next time.